Welcome to AIBTM's Video Dailies, brought to you by Lanyon. The American Meetings and Events Exhibition is a key part of the IBTM portfolio, and I'm talking to the man who heads up that portfolio, Craig Moyes. Craig Moyes, we're days away now from AIBTM, the America Incentive Business of Travel and Meetings show. Now, the interesting thing about AIBTM is it's a relatively new show. How does it fit in with the overall AIBTM portfolio?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, we're now in our third year. We've moved to Chicago for this year, next week, in fact. You know, it's a very important part of what we do. Clearly, being in the United States is one of the most mature and the biggest of the meetings and business travel markets around the world. And clearly, as the leading global portfolio in that market, we want to be there.
And with respect to how important it is on the ground, I mean, what are the key aims for AIBTM? I mean, you started with the AIBTM in Barcelona. That show's been going for a long time now, got a long heritage. Yep. And then you kind of looked at the emerging markets with GIBTM, moved into China, also just dipping your toe into India. America's quite a mature market, yet you arrived there quite late. So what are the main aims?
Well, I guess the aim for the portfolio overall, Ian, is clearly to have the best value meetings, exhibitions that we can have to serve all the international and regional markets around the world. That's kind of our global aim. And AIBTM and America is, as I said before, a huge market. And what we're trying to do is to serve the needs of the US market primarily. So that means bringing international destinations who are trying to attract US business, but also for the US destinations who are trying to attract international business into the US, but as importantly is to have a focal point for the US meetings industry so that they can see all that's available on their own doorstep. If they're a US buyer who's purely got domestic business to place, then they have a home at AIBTM.
And I suppose what it really reacts to as well is the globalisation of the industry. Everybody's, looking beyond their own boundaries now, aren't they?
Absolutely they are. And, it never ceases to amaze me how many people are interested in marketplaces that perhaps 10 years ago they weren't interested in. When I look at the volume and growth of CIBTM in Beijing, 7, 8 years ago, that was a bit of a mystery to lots of people. And they might even be said we're a little frightened of it. Well, they're not now. And that show is growing rapidly every year. You cannot ignore what's going on in China. All right, their economic growth rate might have slowed a little bit compared to where it was 3 or 4 years ago, but you'd be quite foolhardy to miss out completely on what's coming from China.
And I suppose the same thing's, it's true for the States in a way. I mean, maybe a couple of years ago people were saying, oh, it's all over in the States, emerging markets in Asia, but the USA's bouncing back.
Well, it's not all over in the US at all, is it? There's a huge volume of business going on within the USA, coming out of the USA, and obviously some business going into the USA. So ignore that at your peril. We want to be a part of it. We're there to stay. We're very much excited about the prospect of being in Chicago next week, and all looks set for a great event.
And what about the show after? Because aren't you moving over to Orlando?
That's right. For the next 3 or 4 years, we're alternating between Chicago, then Orlando, back to Chicago and back to Orlando. And kind of we've got some inspiration for that, really, for some of the big US meetings who do move around a little bit within the US anyway. So we wanted to follow that format. I think it's quite brave. I think it's pretty exciting. It freshens the show up. We'll get slightly different audiences, I suspect, at in each city. And I think it's great. And I'm really looking forward to going to Orlando after what I'm sure will be a very successful week in Chicago.